So when an organization is thinking about trying to solve the problem of threat detection, they have a couple of options in front of them. First off, they can try to do it themselves, and do it yourself can be a solution or approach that works, but there are some really important considerations to think through when you kind of go down that path. If you're going to do it yourself, first off, you've got to go evaluate a SIM, or a security information event management tool, which is going to work for you. And there are a variety of them out on the market, some better than others. So the evaluation process has to take into account kind of what your organization looks like from a maturity level standpoint, what your network architecture looks like, what sort of data you process, and sort of what typical threat actors are going to be coming after you. That's an important thing to be thinking about. Second to that, it's also very important to understand what sort of budget you've got for operations and maintenance, because just buying a tool alone is really not going to do this job. Anybody can go and purchase a shiny box off the shelf and implement it probably in an okay manner, but in order to really get value out of a security monitoring solution, it has to be cared for and fed and nurtured. And there are a variety of things that go into that as well. First off, you've got to have the correct training over the tools that you've purchased to configure it correctly, and then do what's called tuning to limit the amount of noise that's coming out of your environment. Because one thing SIMs are notorious for is producing a huge amount of noise. And if you're not configured correctly, or if you don't have sort of the right eyeballs on the alerts that are coming in, you're just going to be inundated, and it will actually be more noise than actual real content. So the signal to noise ratio ends up being very much unfavorable if you do go down that route without really thinking it through. The third part about doing it yourself is if you don't have the logistical capability to perform that 24/7 monitoring, you've kind of missed the point. While you are doing the 9 to 5, that may work very, very well. The problem is the majority of the world's advanced persistent threats, or APTs, are based in very far-flung places like China or North Korea, or places like that, which even if they are working in their 9 to 5, that's going to be the middle of the night for you. So they're going to be coming after you when you're asleep, and you're going to rely utterly upon the correct configuration of your tools in order to kind of solve that. And that's not really a good approach. It's much better to have eyeballs on the different feeds that are coming out of your environment 24 hours a day. And I know from experience, most organizations do not have the logistical capability to have a 24/7 operation that is functional. So that's some of the reasons that it makes sense to start looking at an outsourced managed security services provider. And that's really the second approach to solving that problem, is bringing in an MSSP like TruShield, who has that experience in deploying SIM infrastructure into a variety of different organizations, a variety of different regulatory environments like PCI or HIPAA or FISMA, and thinking through those different problems around, first off, not only how your architecture kind of fits in with your overall security posture, but how your operations also kind of dovetail into that as well, because your operational environment is going to have a very big impact about or on how you're monitored. Certain data flows from one segment of your network to another may be very risky for you, whereas in another environment it may not be. And that sort of knowledge needs to be brought to the table when you're thinking about a managed security services solution. The second thing about going the MSSP route versus do-it-yourself is it's typically going to be a lot more digestible from a cost perspective. While you're still going to get all the same technology and all that same sort of expertise that you may get if you do it yourself, you're going to be basically sharing that set of resources across that MSSP's customer base, which is going to end up costing you less in the long run. We call it economies of scale, so that when we purchase a security stack, effectively the base of customers that we have shares in the benefit of having access to all that technology, all that threat intelligence, all of the the different malware research experts that we've got on staff. That is a shared pool of resources that are available to the purchaser of an MSSP services like our customers are. And I think that's a really big benefit that can't really be undersold when you think about the do-it-yourself versus the outsource sort of model. And that's why we certainly think it makes sense to look at MSSPs like TruShield.